Good morning, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas. The morning edition. How are you doing this morning? You know, a lot of people think the Corvette was America's first true fiberglass sports car. No, sorry, wasn't. A small company called Kaiser beat Generous Motors to the punch. The first fiberglass production sports car by an automobile manufacturer, a major manufacturer, was Kaiser. Now, Kaiser had been in business for many years, starting with a cement company. He built roads, he built buildings, he built everything. Started a healthcare service, still in business today. Started a shipbuilding business, built nearly 1,500 ships during World War II. He also decided he was going to build cars. And he did. And he built a number of them. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Gasaholics. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Now, Henry J. Kaiser, that was his name he put on a car, too, in 1950. Well, he did that with Reconstruction funds after World War II. After World War II, good morning out of Minnesota, Jason Jill. How you doing? All right, so he borrowed money, took a loan out the federal government was offering to build more cars. He did. And he built some super cars. The Henry J, an excellent car. Not the right timing. People weren't looking for compact cars. But Dutch Darrin, an automotive stylist, someone who'd been working for Studebaker and Packard and had his own design business that would make custom coach-built cars, took it upon himself to take a Henry J. chassis, make a very stylish and swoopy sports car, and put the body on the Henry J. chassis. Excuse me. Now, many of you may say, Henry J., that wasn't a handling car. That wasn't a sports car. No, the Henry J., it wasn't. But the chassis was a pretty sound foundation, and with the six-cylinder, reasonably powerful. Now, Kaiser didn't like sports cars. Dutch Darrin built this car himself on his own dime in his own shop without ever letting Kaiser know what he was doing. And he was actually doing some design work for them, but he did this car on his own. He showed it to the big guy, and the first thing the big guy did was get mad. He got angry at Dutch Darrin and told him, "What the heck are you doing? I build cars, not sports cars." Well, Darrin knew this was a good idea. Kaiser brought his lovely new younger wife with him to the introduction of the car. Well, she said, "That's the most beautiful car I've ever seen. Other companies are just going to want to love this car and build one like it." Henry listened to his young wife and said, "All right, build it." So they did. Now, they started out using a glass bar, which was a boat company, to make the bodies. Now, the reason they went with fiberglass was numerous. It was less expensive than a steel body. The tooling was easier to produce. The body was built in two main sections, the front and the rear. The doors, the hood, and the trunk were cast separately. Good morning, Craig. How are you? And Johnny Martinez. The doors were unique. Instead of opening out like everything else we know of, except maybe a gull-wing car, they slid into the front fender out of the way. Now, Dutch Darrin said this was a safety feature because you didn't have to open your door into traffic when you got out of your car. Okay. No one else decided to try that. Instead of using a more powerful engine, they stuck with the traditional Kaiser six-cylinder flathead. Not the most powerful motor in the group there. And even the Chevy Corvette with its six-cylinder had over 60 horsepower more than the Darrin. The Darrin had a 3-speed manual transmission on the floor, similar to European sports cars, except they had 4 speeds. It had an inline 6-cylinder flathead, antiquated design, reliable, but antiquated. Not the most high horsepower. Hi, Roseanne. How are you doing this morning? Dennis Burnham as well. Craig Heidenthal. Good morning to you. So that was something they did. Now, like the Corvette, it didn't have roll-up windows. It had side curtains. It had a 3-position top. It could be fully open, halfway open, so it had kind of like a crown behind your head, and fully closed. Hi, Raphael. How are you doing from Italy? Chris Costanza watching as well. The bodywork on the Kaiser was very, very smooth, very stylish. It had a tiny little grill in the front. I'm not sure how they got enough air through that to cool the 6-cylinder engine, but apparently they did. Now, I've also heard that they put superchargers on some of them. A little Paxton supercharger, or McCullough as it was at the time, and that gave it some more horsepower and more oomph that it really needed. Now, Darrin gave up glass bar. They just weren't keeping up with production they needed. The production they needed and what they got were not anywhere near what was necessary to promote and to continue to produce a car. So Glassbar did the first few bodies, then Kaiser took the body in-house, the molds and such, and did the rest of the body in their factory. In the first year of production, there were 435 Kaiser Darrins produced. It was also the last year of production. The Kaiser Darrin left its mark on the American automobile scene with a beautiful car that went absolutely nowhere. They're prized possessions of the people today, but they really didn't catch on. Good morning, Edgar Glenn. How are you doing this morning? And Movie Mike Walsh, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, the good old Blue Flame 6 of the Corvette did put out some good horsepower and was reliable. The Kaiser Darrin's Flathead 6 just couldn't keep up. Now, Kaiser had been working on a number of different cars to come out with in the early 1950s. As I said, the Henry J was a compact car, and I really liked them. I've had one, and as a matter of fact, I had it twice. But it was a neat little car. It just was not what the people were looking for. Craig Dales, my co-announcer at all Los Angeles County Raceway and racer himself. Good to see you tuning in this morning. All right. So what have we got? Well, we got a car that came out from Kaiser that was stylish. It was contemporary. Great dashboard layout. Bucket seats that really looked good. And even by today's standard, had good side bolstering. And Mark McGeorge says Judson supercharger was what they used. Well, that could be. I have to look that up. I have not found that information. I know I've seen them with superchargers on there, and I thought that was a factory option, but it may have been something the dealers were doing. So the fiberglass body was economical. The car, though, had a selling price. Hi, Steve. My cousin, Mr. Jarvis, is tuning in as well. $4,000. Now, to put that in perspective, a full-size Ford was less than $2,000. A Henry J was $1,500, almost $1,600. Very compatible with the Ford prices at the time. And the problem was, it was a small car. It was only available in a 2-door, where you can get a Ford or a Chevy full-size car for the same price as a Henry J. Now, the $4,000 Darrin. Over twice what a full-size car sold for. So you had a very exclusive market. And that exclusive market was also looking at Jaguars, MGs, Triumphs. There were so many British sports cars coming in at less than half the price with pedigree. You're in freeze mode. You're going to log out and then log back in. Well, sorry, Craig. Not showing up on my screen. All right, Mark saying the Judsons were dealer installed. And Mark McGeorge was a car handler for General Motors, worked with me on show cars and trade shows that we used to take out GM-produced vehicles to. So he's definitely a car guy. Roseanne Hernandez, we what? Oh, you're good. Okay, that's good. All right, so the prototype came out. Henry kind of liked it after his wife said, "Oh, it's so cute." So he produced it. 435 cars the first year. It was a flop. Total. It is more respected now and more accepted today than it was when it came out. It was too expensive. It didn't have enough power. It just was quirky for the time. And it sat on a Henry J. chassis. Hello, Robert Gene Devon. How are you this morning? So, production didn't do what they needed it to do. Hot Rod and Motor Trend magazine publisher Robert E. Peterson catered to the hot rod community, but he kind of liked the Darrin. It was positive. The Roadster was dubbed the sports car that everyone has been waiting for at the 1953 New York Auto Show when it debuted. And it would be available in the autumn of 1953. Production models didn't reach the showrooms till January of 1954, after the Corvette had already been introduced. And that was another problem. As expensive as the Corvette was, it was still less expensive than the Kaiser Darrin. The Darrin did look cool, though. So did the Corvette. The Corvette had more power. They both had side curtains. The Darrin had unique doors. The Corvette didn't have door handles. So there were some similarities there. In March 1953, Kaiser merged with Willys Overland, and the Willys Corporation moved production to Toledo, Ohio. Now, this didn't go over real well with them, and there was a lot of infighting. When the Kaiser Darrin finally hit the market, the actual price, I know I said $4,000, was $3,668. That was higher than a Cadillac or a Lincoln luxury car. Again, you're looking at a limited market. They tried to get to that market, to get to those people that were buying Alphas and Triumphs and Jaguars, especially the Jaguar. Price-wise, they were really close to what the Jaguar was, but the Jaguar had so much more horsepower, sounded so much nicer, and was a traditional metal-bodied car, which at the time people thought might have been better. I don't know. The problem with design also became apparent as the Darrin entered the market, especially regarding the sliding doors. When interior space was adequate, although it was adequate, entering and exiting the car through the narrow openings was awkward. Doors on the early production vehicles tended to jam. They didn't slide real nice. And there was a switch to nylon roller bearings that helped that, but it was too late. Owners were already complaining, and the door tracks would fill with dirt that made it really difficult. The other problem was the folding top and side curtains leaked. The heater provided inadequate warmth, and you got to remember, a lot of car sales are in the East and the Midwest, where they have all four seasons, not like here in Southern California, where we have spring, and sometimes summer mixes in there. So Kaiser's hoping the Darrin would entice dealers to order more of the company's other products and use the Kaiser Darrin as a halo car didn't prove. So in early 1954, many Kaiser Frazer dealers had either switched to other makes or gone out of business. So Kaiser automobiles did not last too long. The merger with Willys did help because, well, it bolstered Jeep sales, believe it or not. So while Kaiser had only set a goal of 1,000 Darrins per year, they didn't reach it. And they had a backlog of unsold cars sitting on the dealer lots. The dealers didn't like that, and they pulled the plug. So Kaiser exited the U.S. consumer car market completely in 1955 after the merger with Willys. Willys didn't see the Kaiser vehicles as a draw. They didn't see them as a viable sales product. So all the Kaiser vehicles went away. Tough break for them. But that was America's first, because it was introduced first, but it didn't come out in production, sports car made out of fiberglass. Now, they called that reinforced plastic, but we call it fiberglass. And Kaiser Darrin, another American sports car legend. If you find one and you see one, they're cool cars to look at. All right, folks, I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got Gas, the morning edition, brought to you by Service Tech, where you can get all the equipment you need for that car or shop you are building on. Moon Eyes. See? The guys at Moon Eyes, they're back open. Check them out. They've been closed during this pandemic issue. They've reopened. you can get all those parts you need in person at the store. So check them out, Santa Fe Springs, Moon Eyes. Irwindale Speedway and Irwindale Drag Strip racing has begun again. However, no spectators allowed just yet. We've got to talk to our governor on that one. And Raphael's saying, once you see, you'll realize it's a well-styled car. Yep, it is. Beach Underwriting Associates for insurance needs, and Valley Head Service. Antique engine rebuilding, race engine building, you name it, they'll do it. If it has to do with an engine, they just did a set of very rare Gurney Westlake 3-valve cylinder heads. So the people that have these rare heads that you cannot replace, trust Valley Head Service, and you should too. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas. The morning edition. Thanks for tuning in. And Danny Santos, thank you. I love giving you information. You have a great day. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas. Take care now.